Previously on Lossano and Friends.
Bruce DuMont of the Museum of Broadcast Communications. Bruce, what's your story about Charles Bronson?
I was doing my show from New York, and one of the big stories in New York at that time was the Guardian Angels were part of the story. It was Rudy Giuliani was mayor. There was the crackdown. Crime in New York was going down because people were getting outraged. They were taking their neighborhoods back. That was a national movement that was going on. As I'm preparing, I'm sitting literally in Central Park. I'm preparing for my show that night. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm sitting on the bench, you know, this is so different than the image of New York and crime and Charles Bronson and Death Wish and all that other stuff. And I knew that I was going to sort of talk about that subject that night, that crime in New York was going down. And I looked to the right, and there, 5 feet away from me on my bench is Charles Bronson. I was specifically thinking of Charles Bronson, Death Wish. And Charles Bronson sits next to me. And I then said, well, am I going to bother? He was by himself. So I very quickly introduced myself. He wasn't very impressed. I said, but I want to talk about America is now reacting, and some people are calling it a vigilante take-back of their neighborhoods. Do you have any sense of pride and authorship of this transformation that's happening in urban America because of your films? And he said, no, I really don't. Things change, and I mean, he didn't really say anything really deep. To be thinking of Charles Bronson in that setting, and for him to sit next to me, I think is one of the most bizarre things that ever happened to me.
I'm going to ask you, can you think about Alyssa Milano for right now? Just to see what happens.
Get more Lossano and Friends now on Lossano.com.